Well, hello there. My name is Rupert G. I'm an editor at the Dice of Doom blog, and today I'm going to show you how to create your own professional looking dungeon tiles for use in your own games. Pretty simple process, not that complicated to get the very basics done. It's going to take us about 5 or 6 minutes to go through it. So anyway, first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a pattern which we're going to use in our rooms that we create later on. So the first thing to do is create a new file. We're going to say 2 inches by 2 inches, and at about 300 pixels per inch is fine because we're hoping to print this off in color later on. Might be a bit high for some of you, but that's okay. You can change and adjust later. Next thing we're going to do is put in some guidelines. Okay, so because we've set this to be 2 inches by 2 inches, that's going to basically give us 4 tiles. So let's just put those in there. It's important that we get this pretty close to spot on. Okay, let's create 4 layers to represent the 4 different tiles. Before we go any further, we're going to set the colors for our tiles. Now, essentially what we're doing is we're going to choose the light color and the dark color for our tiles. So a light grey and a dark grey is fine. Now just bear in mind we're going to apply a few effects later on that's going to darken the overall image, so leaving these a little bit lighter than you would normally think for tiles is fine. We're going to darken them a bit later on. Okay, let's create our first tile. What we're going to do here is we're going to use something called clouds, so render clouds, and it's going to fill it in with a combination of the light and dark grey. Select the next layer, Control or Apple F to repeat the last effect. Next layer, repeat. Okay, so that's our 4 tiles. We can now, of course, hide our rulers. We don't need them anymore. Okay, now let's apply a few effects to this to make it look a bit more tiley. I'm just going to pop those into a folder for ease of management. What we're going to use is a emboss. We're going to actually use a pillow emboss, which doesn't get used very often for good reason. You can already see that it's starting to look a bit like a tile, but I'm just going to soften it a bit. Okay, so that's essentially adding a bit of a 3D element to it, and I'm going to leave the rest of it pretty much as is. All we need to do then is copy the layer style and paste to the other tiles. Okay, and that is the beginnings of our tiles. Okay, so all that remains for us to do in this particular step, select all, go to Edit, Define Pattern, and I'm going to call this Floor Tile 2 by 2 because I've created a few in the past. Okay, and that's that for that stage. Now let's actually put this to use. New document, I'm going to create a room that's 5 by 5. 300 is fine again. Okay, so edit, fill. You will see that our tiles are there before. These are a couple that were created before. So there's the one that we just made previously, and that's a 5 by 5 room, straight up. We're going to just apply one more thing to give it a bit of variance. What we can do is, keeping the colors that we used before, throw on the clouds again. Okay, go to multiply. Okay, and it just breaks the pattern up a bit, makes them look a bit more varied. If that's too dark for you, you can use the opacity here to make it lighter or darker or whatever you like. I tend to leave it at about 80 to 90%. I think that's a good color. Okay, and that's basically ready to use. Now if we wanted to create a few walls to use, we could do that quite simply. I'm going to change that back to black, change that to select, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create rough walls first and then cut out what we're going to use later on. So let's just create big chunky walls. Like that. And fill with black. Okay, now that's quite obviously too dark, too thick to really look nice. So what we're going to do, I just actually want to create another way out of the room. Okay. So in order to make it look a bit more appealing, select that, delete, deselect. There you are. A 5x5 room, ready to use. Now in the next little while, over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start showing you how to use Photoshop again to add slime effects, mold growing across the floor, wooden floors, grass, gravel, sand, how to add blood splatter effects and things like that to your dungeon tiles as well, and make them look a bit more interesting, a bit more professional. So keep on checking out the Dice of Doom blog in the next couple of weeks, and look forward to seeing you then.